everybody wants a good attitude, but like sometimes bad days happen. I just need you to have a teachable attitude. And I tell every single time we're in a game, my guys know this, they probably get nauseated by it, is it's okay to have emotions, but it's not okay to be emotional. The ups and downs, like bad things happen. And if you're playing really hard, the first part, you're going to make mistakes, right? So you just got to find ways to stay but if a big play happens, if we hit a huge three or we get an alley oop, like, yeah, have emotions. That's okay.
Welcome to the Jamodi Podcast. We are all surrounded by amazing coaches and leaders. So let's get an inside look at not just what they do, but how they do what they do. After all, becoming the best versions of ourselves is Jamodi, just a matter of doing it.
Today we're joined by the head men's basketball coach at Grace College, Scott Moore. Coach Moore played at Grace College from 2004 to 2008, finishing 6th all-time in assists, and during his senior year made a run to the Elite 8 round of the NAIA National Championships. He's starting his 6th season as head coach and his 13th season as a coach at Grace. In just his first few seasons, he's been named the Crossroads League Coach of the Year 3 times, the NCCAA National Coach of the Year twice, and the NABC NAIA National Coach of the Year in 2023-24. Last season, the Lancers were the number 1 ranked team in the country for much of the season. They won the regular season and postseason championships in the Crossroads League and were the overall number 1 seed in the NAIA tournament. Grace enjoyed its deepest run in the NAIA Division I tournament era, reaching the Final Four. Coach Moore was also named the 2023-24 Don Meyer NAIA Coach of the Year. Before we hear from Coach, take a moment to subscribe to our podcast and follow us on social media at Jamodi Podcast.
What's up, Coach?
What's up, man? How are you?
Man, I'm good. How about you?
I'm hanging in there, brother. Just I'm trying to figure out where my big kids play, and it's been a whirlwind, man. It's crazy. Yeah.
No, I want to say congratulations on an incredible year. Don Meyer Coach of the Year award. Like, that's incredible.
Thanks, man. It's obviously it's not why we get into this, but it's very humbling, and it is neat because those things you share with a lot of people, and so it's hard for me because I don't love taking and getting all that recognition, but it allows me to give a lot of guys recognition that probably deserve it as well. So it's neat.
And it's a program award. I think anytime that you get stuff like that, I think our players feel a sense of accomplishment and gets maybe some pride from that award that you got.
Yeah, no question. It's good for our school, right? Anything that we can bring Grace to kind of the forefront, and then obviously use the platform for more than just that. It's it's what you sign up for, right? So can't complain about it once it's here. It's
if only our school would get more recognition. All this recognition we're getting. We don't want it.
Why is this happening? So no, that's right. Well, it's good to finally meet you, man. I appreciate taking time, and it's gonna be fun.
Well, coming off of an incredible year for your program, and then, like you said earlier, even for yourself, which I get, those are program awards, and I appreciate your way of looking at that, the humility that you show throughout this season in your career. What have been some of those daily habits that set you up for success?
Yeah, well, 15 years ago, I just finished my 15th year, like actually coaching, which is crazy because it feels like yesterday. Had the opportunity to play overseas with my twin brother, and had an opportunity to coach with my older brother. He kind of got me into this profession then, and being back with Coach K for 7 years before I took over, and I just finished my 5th year. So one thing I have learned, I'm going to jump around with your question. The first thing is what have you learned? And what would you tell yourself when you get into this? Is it's funny when you're 24, 25, everything, right? And you're the man. And now I'm 38 and I go, man, I don't know anything I'm doing. And every year that goes on, you realize how much little you know. So just the continuous growth. I think for us, the daily habits you talk about, that's one thing we've been really good at. I think I've touched on this with other podcasts and other people that I've talked to. Is last year we had a freshman that ended up getting diagnosed with cancer. And, just it kind of, you think you know what coaching is, and it's between those 94 feet and X's and O's and timeouts and all this. And that's what you spend your time on when you're going through this and you're preparing. But you ask any coach, like dealing with that stuff, that's coaching, right?
Yeah.
That is coaching. So when that hit, my whole staff, man, we've never gone through this. And so trying to figure out how we handle that and handle a young man who's dealing with something so much bigger than just a game. And then how you handle his teammates, right? Like, we got the news and we're going into practice, and I'm like, it's the first time in my career where I looked at my assistant who's like, guys, I don't know what to do. Like, I do not have an answer.
Yeah.
And so we just kind of canceled practice. And so stemming from that, I was always a big picture guy and always hey, here's our goal. This is what we're going to obtain. Let's go do it. And it was the first time in my career that I worried less about the outcome of the games and more about, like, man, COVID had we'd done with that, right? And we didn't know if we were going to even play. And you're playing in front of 0 fans. And then this thing with Hagen happens. And so now it's, okay, let's really, I'm going to do 2 things. I'm going to worry about today and take care of it. And 2, I'm going to enjoy every single minute and process of this. And that's where I got better, is the daily part of, we can get the what, like, this is what we want, but now we got to focus on the how. And the how is constant. I tell the guys all the time, be great at simple, right? And simple is boring. Simple is boring, but the best teams in the country figure out how to do something simple, how to do it excellent, and then repeat and then repeat and repeat, right? And that's the hard part, is doing something. This isn't a 2-week thing. This is 10 months, right? You start July, June, and it goes. And we just finished up the end of March. It's a long process and a long season. So that's the day-to-days. You focus on the how, not just the what. And then from there, you can win basketball games a lot of different ways. You've learned that. There's different styles out there. I think for us, it's just like, hey, this is who we are. It's what we believe in. Now we're going to attack this every single day. And we are going to be great at being simple.
Yeah.
And if we can do that, you get enough talent. Like, you can look around and, okay, Elijah Malone's pretty special. Like, we've got some guy like Carter Stoltz who's really good. Brett Sikafu's coming out, like, he's coming off the bench playing 15 minutes, and he could be starting and playing a lot for a lot of teams. We just have a lot of those guys. So once you realize you have talent, you can do those things. I just think great things can happen, and we've been fortunate, especially the last couple of years.
Man, a lot of good nuggets there. Fran Fraschilla had a quote or idea that I really liked. He said, "Don't get bored at getting good." Like, and the things that get you good sometimes are more the mundane, boring daily habits. That could be with our walk. That could also be with hoops. And then I thought a great nugget about the 94 feet and how so much of what we do is really outside of those 94 feet. But how often as coaches do we only focus on that portion of it, improving in that portion? I need a better system. I need a better out of bounds play. I need a better this and that. In your opinion, how do you get better at the stuff that's outside the 94 feet?
Well, today, it's so much. I know it's mundane and people talk about it so much, but today's kids are so different. When I was playing, when you were going, like, relationships and having these kids, honestly, they're not dumb. Like, they can sniff out genuine, right?
Yeah.
They know if you care. And what my goal with our kids, and I can't speak for other programs, but I was an okay player. I was not a superstar. I played on a lot of great teams, so it probably made me look better than what I actually was. But I was always, I was the second wheel to my twin brother. He went to Grace, scored 2,500 points in college. He was a way better basketball player than me. I was just attached to him because I was his twin. I was the point guard, and I averaged 8 points a game, 7 points a game, and he averaged 22. And I laugh because I tell everybody like, hey man, between us, we scored like 3,600 points in college. We were pretty tough, but he had like 27 of it. But
It's like the Kobe Bryant, Kwame Brown stat. Like
right.
These guys combined for 84, and it was 82-2. So nice,
right? But because of that, my coaching style was a lot like my playing style in the fact that, like, dude, I don't care. I don't need a medal individually. I don't need to be in a Hall of Fame. I don't need anything. I want to win. I want to do whatever it takes to win. And if my role was, hey, I was going to pass it to Marcus and he was going to score and that won me games, then, dude, I'd pass it as many times as I could. If my job was to guard that best player, I did it. And so it's funny how that stuff carries over as a coach. We have a significant thing we talked about, and I know you have some other questions about, building confidence and what your team culture kind of looks like. I have a very significant thing that we talk about is bringing value. And we give these guys examples constantly of, if you want to play for us, you have to add value to our team. You have to. Like there is no, if you're not going to bring value in an area, then you need to go find another team to play for. Yeah. So a lot of that value, Matt, comes from stuff on the court or off the court. I have a young man now who's going to be a senior, Marcus Davidson. His brother was NAI All-American for us last year. He's actually playing professionally in France right now. And Marcus is a heck of a player, and he has gotten really, really good. The problem is we've got 9-10 guys that are just more talented than him. And so, you have those conversations like, Marcus, where do you bring value at? And I'm telling you right now, as hard as it was to lose a guy like Frankie Davidson for us the year before with all those accolades, it is going to be so much harder for us to replace Marcus Davidson than it was Frank. And that's not hitting on Frank. Like, Frank was incredible for us. But the value of what Marcus brings to our locker room and our team, he's a guy where if he says something, man, everybody listens. And he'll play 5 minutes maybe. Like, he gets in if we're up. So that's the big thing, is add value. We will help you in certain ways, like what that looks like. Mm-hmm. Points, rebounds, assists, cheering, being a 4.0 student, right? Like, being a great student adds value. Character is obviously a big piece of what we're trying to do here. So yeah, we spend a ton of time at it, and I tell them so much, and I believe it because I was this guy. There's nothing you can do in a basketball game that can make me love you or not love you, more or less, right? There's nothing. So whether you're Elijah Malone and you're the National Player of the Year, or you're Marcus Davidson, like, I love you, and no one more than the other. And I think those guys, they believe it. And I hope they do. I hope that's my assistants do such a good job in that too, where for us, it's kind of what we're about.
I think the moment that you say something like that, then not pressure's the wrong word, but a responsibility, you have to live that out. Because you can't just say that I love you no matter what, how you play or whatnot. But if you don't live that, if your stars receive more of the love than everybody else, then that's going to fall flat really quick. So I appreciate the fact that you say it, but that you live it out.
The Jamodi Podcast is powered by Sideline Interactive. Sideline Interactive is the leading manufacturer for high-quality, innovative scoring tables and LED video display boards that help coaches and schools bring more excitement to fans, create huge fundraising opportunities, and make their jobs easier. Visit sidelineinteractive.com to check out their amazing products.
It sounds like you and I were similar players. I appreciate you saying I wasn't a very good player. You played overseas, man. So, okay. Like, I get it. No, I say that. I was a good
agent. What I did was like, hey, if you want Marcus, you got to take me.
That's right.
And so, yeah, I use my words really well.
No, that's good.
Trick somebody into taking me too. But
as a player, value is what I always wanted to add. And at times that was not on the floor. At times that was on the bench, bringing a lot of spirit and energy, mimicking what my head coach was yelling out, giving those same reminders, helping some of my teammates to kind of get out of their own way at times by giving them jobs to work on other teammates. When you tell your guys to add value, and you did answer this, to me, it's you got to have clarity with that, or else that can be a coachism, coach speak that is vague. It's like shot selection. Guys, we can take good shots. Well, if you're not clear on what that is, then you got 5 different dudes thinking good shots are different things. Value. You kind of gave that list. I think that clarity is really important.
Yeah, no question. And then what you said, the worst thing you can do is say something and not follow through. That's my number one recruiting pitch when kids sit on the couch is I tell their moms and dads when they go through this, I'm not promising you anything because I've given a lot of money to a kid that's come and played for us that hasn't been very good. And I've given barely any money, almost a walk-on situation, to a kid that's become an All-American. And so the worst thing we can do as coaches, especially today, is I don't want anybody showing up in August and saying, man, this is nothing what coach said it was going to be like. Nothing. Like, that's my nightmare of, you lied to me. And so it is one thing to say it, but it is another thing to hold true and hold accountability. And that's why I also have great assistants is we do such a good job of, hey, remember what we said? Like, we got to be careful of what we're doing to back it up. And you also have words matter.
Yeah.
How you say things and how you articulate things. And you got to be careful not to set yourself up to have to make a decision that, man, you really didn't want to make. Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, these guys know you ask in the locker room because I say it too many times. I say, guys, there's a lot of guys that average 20 across the country that nobody talks about. So, if you want to win, if you want to do that, if that's what you want to be a part of, then here's where you can add value to that. And surprisingly, I think that's the good thing is they've won a lot. So now it's nice to see that come to fruition a little bit because now they really do believe it.
This might be kind of a weird segue or anything, but maybe the portal, and I just thought of this, maybe the portal helps a little bit with holding programs, coaches accountable for what they say, because it's so easy for them to leave now. Like I'm not saying that players didn't leave before the portal was, but it was more challenging. Like there's maybe a little bit more unknown of what this process is like. Like I remember thinking of transferring when one of my best friends on the team did. He went to Davidson and I thought about it, but there was this idea of like, I don't even know, like, what's the steps? Like, how do I go about that? Do I even want to go through all that? But now, like when you talk about what your words matter and what you tell them is actually what has to happen and what has to be there. If not, man, they can just book it. Maybe the portal, because I don't know many people that give the portal positive attributes or byproducts that like is positive. Maybe that is one good thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's more and more things are becoming more transactional, and it's just getting harder and harder to replace that with transformation, right? And there are good things about the portal. There's good and bad in anything, and one thing that portal gets a bad rep is the portal has always existed. It's called transferring. Like now we just created something where, hey, we're going to put all this in a database and every coach in the country is going to have access to it. Well, 20 years ago, this is the same thing. It's just now we have so much availability and we are one text or one direct message or one phone call away from we can get that, right? So I think with the one thing the portal gets a bad rep on is like there's so many players that enter, but you got to remember too, that's not always the kid's decision. Like coaches don't get enough heat for like, hey, there's a lot of coaches they're saying, hey, you no longer have a scholarship, or hey, you didn't perform up to your ability. So like, hey, see you later. Right.
Thanks for coming and talk with me. You're going to be entering the portal.
Yeah. They all go into the same category.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's true.
I try really hard. Like, it's a real thing now. And, we're in a situation where we've been very blessed. Our league is a powerhouse league in the NAIA. Crossroads League is just one of, if not the best. We've got so many kids that are available to us. And because of all these bigger schools going after 22 and 23-year-olds, I can get high school kids that are way better than ever before. The problem is now, I'm dealing with it. I know Greg Tonagle's dealing with it. Indiana Wesleyan. I know that the St. Francis guys are dealing with it. Marion's going to deal with it. Bethel's going to. Huntington's. So now we have this situation where, okay, we get a good player 2 years down the line, even a low mid-major, even a mid-major that's not very good. All you got to do is throw 75,000, 50,000, and it just puts us in such a tough position because we just don't have that. We have a lot of great things. And, NIL is coming into my level in my league, but not 75,000, right? And a lot of these schools can just talk to a person, boom, write a check. And so that's the next conversation our league is going to have, honestly, is like, hey, we got to be prepared because it's a shift. And we're 4-year colleges, and we get 4-year guys. And now, are we ready? Because your best players are going to get phone calls, and they're going to get phone calls right away. And the Elijah Malones, they just don't exist, man. They to be here for 4 years and to graduate from Grace and get all these accolades when you had everybody calling you. But what it's done now is like, you're going to have your pick, man. Like, there's 30 Power Fives that are trying to get you on campus ASAP on the 12th when it opens up.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
But what's great is, for me, he stayed here and he's going to graduate with a Grace degree. That's pretty special.
Coach, let's get past the portal talk, because the moment that I even bring it up, I always feel like this isn't college coaches don't want to come on and talk about the portal. So but there was a link there. So I went that direction, but you've taken it another place, which is how do you keep somebody like him for 4 years? It has to be culture, the dreaded buzzword that's out there now, but the standards, the pillars of your program, the way that you do things on a daily basis, that has to matter more than ever before. And that's why you've been able to keep guys like that. How important is culture to your program? How does it drive performance?
Well, I always laugh at the word you said it.
I know. Don't judge me for using
but the reality is, and it is funny because I take a look at some of these other programs, and especially outside of our league, like our league's full of so many great coaches and so many great men and leaders of men who I think do things the right way. And, we're a faith-based institution and we're a faith-based league. So, I look at some of these other things and they bring this word up and I'm like, man, I think our definition is different. Because I think there's a lot of guys that define it some way, and it's like, yeah, that's not how I define it. So for me, for us specifically at Grace, I think that if it's only about basketball, if that is it, you're going to be disappointed. The game will let you down sooner or later. It's going to disappoint you. Whether it's a day, a week, a month, a season, or a career, you are going to be disappointed about basketball, right? So why does Elijah stay? Man, I don't know. I mean, honestly, I don't. But I think what it tells me and my assistants are, guys, we're moving in the right direction. If it was only about basketball, he would have bounced a long time ago. I've got multiple guys that are talented enough, All-Americans. We got a kid next year who had to play somewhat like with and behind Elijah, but I'm not kidding, Matt. Like, I would put him up with anyone in our league to be one of the favorites to win Conference Player of the Year, and he was our sixth man last year.
Wow.
So a guy like Ian Scott is, well, you can go anywhere. Right. And he can go Division I, like he can make some money. But if it's only about basketball, then he would have been gone a while ago. Coach, I'm not starting. Like, I play 22 minutes a game. I'm better than this. I'm going to be just as good as E. Like, me, right? But whatever it is, if we can make it about something else and building that culture, like, it does take a while, right? And there are some things that we do that we can talk about here that I think are different than other teams. But I knew I'm not trying to be anyone else. I'm trying to be Grace, and there are a lot of teams that do things really well, and I'm definitely not gonna take away and shift our goals as a program and our beliefs as a program to fit a really good basketball player. I'm just not gonna do it.
I think and let me just jump in. I think what you're talking about is your program as a whole having a higher purpose, the why being higher than just the game. And I love what you said, the game will let you down. And I'm not going to launch into a long story here, but I mean, going into my senior year, I thought we were going to be really good. And one of my teammates shot and killed one of my other teammates, and my entire program fell apart. And within the course of 2 months, 10 teammates were gone, the entire coaching staff. Coach Drew comes in as a 32-year-old to take over. We have 6 players and 5 walk-ons. Basketball was broken, let me down, and I realized that I had nothing else. That's a horrible feeling when your program is all about basketball and they're unhappy with the game. Could be playing time, could be just the way that they're playing, could be a lot of different things, or an extreme situation like mine. You find out that it's not enough. So when you have a higher purpose to your program, a higher why than just the game, if they have an injury, if the season doesn't go the way that you want, you can still, I don't know, you can still have success. You can define success differently than everybody else does. It seems like that's what you guys are doing. Coaches, the Jamodi podcast is powered by Shoot 360. The future of basketball has arrived in Dallas-Fort Worth. Shoot 360 combines the latest sports technology with the fundamentals of basketball skill development. The result is a one-of-a-kind video game-like basketball program designed to improve your shooting, dribbling, and passing. Visit shoot360dfw.com to learn more and register for your free 1-hour workout evaluation. Shoot 360, the future of basketball is here.
Yeah, you asked at the beginning the pillars of the program, and again, this goes back to simplicity and just, we recruit a certain style. It's not a secret. I think one of the best compliments you can get is when a league coach or somebody else says, "Hey, man, that's a Grace guy." Like, that's awesome, because what that means is you have an identity.
Yeah.
And a lot of coaches, like, they have, like, you gotta find out what that is, right? And then you gotta go get that. And to hear, "Man, that's a Grace guy," you couldn't get a better compliment. Our pillars are very simple. I ask my kids to give me 3 things, and 3 things constantly. And obviously there are other things about our school and things we got to do with academics and, the spiritual growth. And we're going to pour into that. But as far as basketball and between the lines, like, I'm never going to coach effort, because college basketball is hard. And we're in a world now where it's harder. We talked about this. It's harder. Playground guys, right? Like, you and I we just grew up, and I didn't need a schedule to go play. We didn't play 100 AAU games where winning or losing didn't matter. You're just playing another game, right? So what we do is, if you can give me great effort, if you can give me a teachable attitude, I don't need you to have, we say great attitude. Everybody wants a good attitude, but, like, sometimes bad days happen.
Yeah.
I just need you to have a teachable attitude. And I tell every single time we're in a game, my guys know this, they probably get nauseated by it, is it's okay to have emotions, but it's not okay to be emotional. Like, the ups and downs, like, bad things happen. And if you're playing really hard, the first part, you're going to make mistakes, right? So you just got to find ways to stay but if a big play happens, if we hit a huge 3 or we get an alley-oop, like, have emotions. That's okay. And then the last one is the most important in our program, is just being a great teammate. And we can define that so many different ways. But if you're a crappy teammate, man, you can take the day off, right? And what does that look like? when we talk about it, if you fail a test or if you cheat and now you're suspended, or if you're drinking and you're suspended, or if you're making decisions, we're all tied together and you hurt all of us, right? That's being a bad teammate. So great effort, great attitude, great teammate. If you can give me those things and give me them on a day-to-day basis, we're going to be all right. And we can handle all the other stuff because everything kind of fits in that box, right? Those things. And we can do tangents and get outside and make it more broad if we want. But great effort, great attitude, great teammate.
I love those three things. And no matter what your pillars are, so often I think we only look at the positive sides to them. Like, what does great effort look like? What does it mean to be teachable? What does it mean to be a great teammate? But you've nailed it. And Shawnee Harley, she was a Canadian women's coach. She has this whole thing about culture breakers, and take the culture that you want, and as a group, let's figure out all the ways that what does it look like when these break down. But that to me is almost like countercultural to what, instead of living in this positive fairy tale world where, guys, everything's going to be great from beginning to end of the season. No, we're going to actually talk about when these things break down, what does it look like? And then how are we going to handle that? It's like you're preparing to fail, but at the same time, preparing to fail that way, it keeps you from being emotional when those failures inevitably happen.
Yeah, and they're going to happen. I think there's some coaches out there I have a lot of respect for. And, man, our level is flooded with dudes that are just flat out impressive, right? Colby Blaine talked a little bit about, he's the College of Idaho head coach, and he's won a ton of games here and probably should be a Division I coach somewhere if that's what he chooses to be. But he spent a lot of time during his national championship team last year. They would practice a lot of stuff where bad situations did happen. And so almost practicing the emotional side of things where, okay, team goes on a 7-0 run, we're down 7, we've got these guys in foul trouble, there's 4.5 minutes to go. Like, now what? Like, how do you stay in the moment and keep doing what you're supposed to be doing? I was listening to another podcast, and it was really funny. Someone had said, I wish I wrote it down, who had said it. They said basketball is the only sport where you play 36 minutes one way and the last 4 minutes you play completely different, right? And it's true. Like you said, actually there's a lot of truth to that. Of like, we're so situational. We try to do so much, but in reality, yes, there are little things with time and score that you have to manipulate and change as a coach, but you obviously want to play the same way for 40 minutes if that's your style. But it is so true.
Yeah, and Nate Oates just said it. He said that they were giving him like kind of crap in the press conference about, hey man, your guy had 2 fouls and you kept playing him. He's like, I'm not a coach that's going to pull a guy out just because he has 2 fouls. Players foul, and they foul at different times throughout the game. Yep. And if they foul at 2 fouls this point or 2 fouls later on, it doesn't matter. It's fouls and it's time. And I think that's kind of what you're talking about. I love that.
Yep, exactly. It's again, you just try to stay true to who you are the whole time, and then it goes back into, after the scoreboard is over, the game runs out of time, and you sit there and you get in the locker room. And this is what I've done better of now, being older and going through this, is like, okay, like, I'm not gonna lie to you. I'd much rather win ugly than lose pretty. Like, I'd take an ugly win all day long. If we stink and we win, like, I'm competitive. Now, it doesn't change the fact that I'm gonna rewatch the film and go, gosh, man, we got to get better. But really, what you're trying to tell your kids is, you're trying not to devalue winning. You never want to devalue winning, but I think you can handle those situations a little better if things don't go your way. We were, I guess I could try to say, we were the number 1 team most of the year. And a lot of the people would tell you we were probably the most talented or the best basketball team in the NAIA. But we didn't win our last game. And we got beat by Freed Hardman. They hit a couple big shots, made some plays, and, we got sent home. And the next day, it's funny because you're getting phone calls and everybody's like, dude, I'm so sorry. Like, I'm so sorry. And it's like, no, it's okay. Like, it's okay. And it sucks, but you realize you get home and, hey, it's Indiana. It's 75 and sunny right now. Like, we haven't seen the sun in 5 months, as you can tell. But you try to put it in perspective of, hey, did you play the way we play? Did you give me your effort? Did you have a great attitude? Were you a great teammate? Did you follow the game plan? Did you give me your best? And if you did that and we got beat, like, I think that's one thing today that's becoming harder is people who are super competitive are afraid to lose. And I think being afraid to lose, man, puts you in ball and chains, and you can never get where you want to get to if you're scared to get beat. And I can tell you this, after year 5, I don't want to lose, but I can get beat. Like, we're going to win the right way. We will lose the right way. We will play the right way. And I'm going to be judged on other things. I said this on Jason Romano's podcast.
Love that guy.
I said it earlier in the year. Like, I really do. I'll ask him. I do not know if God cares if I win or lose games. I really do. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't, but I don't think he does. But I do think he cares how I win and lose games. And I think that's the message we tried to teach our kids this especially this year is we're gonna do the how right. And if you get beat, that's okay, man. Like, we're gonna be all right. Because 10 years from now, when you come back and you have that reunion and you are with your little kids and you're married and you see that Final Four banner hanging up in the rafters and, not one of you is going to be talking about any game you played. You know it being older. I know it being older and being, a has-been. I don't remember any game I played. I remember bits and pieces. But, man, you remember those moments, those locker room, those bus trips, the funny times, the toughness week where the conditioning part where you had to come together, the part where coach was, crazy and did something, or it just, those are what you talk about. And it, it's just they don't know it yet because they're 20.
Yeah.
And they'll know it at 38, though.
That's right. To your point, we can glorify God when we win, and we can glorify him when we lose. That I think that's what, like, to your point, like, does he care if we win or lose? I don't think so, personally. And you were saying you don't know, and like, I don't, but I do think you nailed it. He cares that we glorify him in either situation, and teaching our players what that looks like is really important. To me, it's a little bit more than just after the game saying all the glory to God. Like, that's kind of the first statement that a lot of players will say. And I appreciate that. Like, it's better than not saying it, but like, look back over your entire body of work, the way that we were teammates with each other and we handled adversity, the way we approached our opposition, the way we handled officials. Golly, just watching the national championship, one of the two coaches was very aggressive towards officials, and in a way that kind of made even Bill Rafferty say, like, he needs to back off, but glorifying him in the way that we play, that is regardless of winning and losing. I think that's possible.
Amen.
What's up, Coach? Are you looking for a way to elevate your off-season skill development? Well, look no further. With the Ballogy app, you can build a workout with our library or create your own content. Send that workout to your players, and then your players complete the workout by recording their session on their phones. You can monitor and encourage competition with our leaderboards for every workout. Ballogy offers player development solutions in the palm of your hands. Get your team started today by going to Ballogy.com for more info.
You said fear of losing. I love that you went into that, because I think that's a part of coaching that isn't talked about a lot. Everybody wants to talk about the scheme or what's going to happen, or what we need to do to help us to win more games. And almost like culture, we go into the season thinking like this is going to work, we're going to win a lot of games, but inevitably we will lose. How did you, and not to talk about Shawnee again, but she talks about the fear of losing a lot. with coaches and how that handcuffs us to make those decisions and to maybe coach with courage more than we do. How did you get over that fear of losing to the point where now you said 5 years into it, yeah, I'm okay if we do?
Well, the Hagan thing had a lot to do with it, if I'm being completely honest. That year, 2 years ago, again, it's the first time in my career where
talk about perspective there, right?
Yeah, you're just walking out because now it's hit home, right? Now you've got your kids are around you, and they're like, we got 14 guys on that roster, and one of them is going through this. Well, this could very easily be you, and because it was so close to home, it's like, okay, it is perspective, and that was probably the first start. I think, how we pan. Maybe it's just getting older. Maybe it's just going through this. Like I am starting to realize winning is hard. We've been fortunate enough to win a lot, and so maybe I've been even a little spoiled with that because it's easy to say it when you lose one game all season going in the tournament, and you lose 5 games in 2 years. But it is truly how I believe. I talked to a coach at the Final Four the other day, and we were kind of talking about the same thing. And same thing. He's like, "Man, I'm sorry. How did you feel afterwards?" And I'm like, "I'm good. I'm good. Maybe that's bad. Maybe I need to get in a different profession because
Coach, I wanted to ask you if you care more, please. If we just care more, please be more upset."
I will say this: I need to do a better job because one thing that I thought it was a good thing, but also I think we missed out on some opportunity this year was they were so used to winning, and they were so much expectation they had on themselves that after games, I mean, I'm walking in, we just won the Elite Eight. We're walking into the locker room, and they're just sitting down and they're ready. Like they're like, and again, it's not that they didn't want to do that, but we got to the point where like, man, it's almost dangerous because the expectation, they reached it. They thought they were going to win. They believed it. They did it. And now it's like, okay, who do we have next? And so only one team gets to win their last game. And so I do want to be careful. That's one thing in the off season I need to figure out on my end is we do want to celebrate all these things. And we do, they mean something. But let's also make sure that you can't get tired. Don't get tired of it. Don't get bored with it because man, when you're 6-24, you'd give anything to get that feeling back. So yeah, there's a balance there that I need to probably do a better job and figure out in the off season of how we celebrate what we celebrate. I'm a pretty mild mannered on the sidelines anyway, and it's not because I don't care. It's because I'm not emotional, right? Mm-hmm. It's just because I'm thinking and I'm trying to process stuff, like a point guard 4 or 5 possessions ahead and time and score, and you're trying to make the game easy on your guys. But it doesn't mean that, we don't want to kick your teeth in. It doesn't mean that, we're not going to give everything we have to try to beat you. But yeah, just something to grow in myself as a coach.
That balance is hard. Because to your point, right after a win, your mind is racing and thinking towards tomorrow. What do we have to work on? Who do we have next? What's the next step? But then allowing yourself to be where your feet are and be in the moment, mm-hmm. allowing your parents to be in your players to be in the moment. But then the next morning at practice, for them to have an edge, for them not to be complacent. I think that's maybe where the art of coaching does come in. It's those days that like guys like TJ Rosine at Emmanuel, like he just seems to know the moment when we're going to play dodgeball today. Like we're not gonna do what's normal. After you hear things like after a loss, instead of like hammering your team, you do something outside the norm. I don't know. I love to know like a manual for doing that, like for getting better in those, or how much is it feel and knowing your team?
Well, what TJ's great at, what he's figured out is something that, Coach Mahalski told me a long time ago is we don't coach basketball, we teach basketball, we coach people. They're not robots, right? So a lot of guys coach basketball, but in reality, what TJ does, and he's done so good for a long time, he's one of the best, is he knows people and he coaches people, and every day is pouring into those. So you get better at it, right? You get a grasp on, okay, where's your team at? What's the feeling? Where for us in Indiana, what we have to deal with is like literally it's gray skies for 4 months in a row, and it's cold in Indiana. We get the lakefront from Chicago, and luckily we're playing indoors during those times, but it's reality. Like, man, it's tough to wake up. You just got back on a bus trip at 1 a.m. You got an 8 a.m. class. You got chapel at 10:30. Oh yeah, by the way, practice is at 4 because we got to hurry up and get ready for here comes Indiana Wesleyan on Saturday. And just the mental fatigue that can do on your players and your coaching staff.
Yeah.
Like, we have families, we have wives and kids that we also want to spend time on. So it's a balance and it's challenging. But I think the more you do it, the better you get at it. You know how to let things go. And TJ's obviously been fun. I just actually got a chance to talk with him quite a bit at the Final Four there. And again, rinse, repeat, had another awesome season.
He's the man. With that whole PGC crew, he was always one of those guys that when I got to be around him, I don't know, it's just something really special about him. And you had a great point right there about your assistant coaches. I think that I know I do a poor job of not thinking about them where they're at mentally, physically. Like you talked about mental fatigue right there. I think as head coaches, we focus on our players quite a bit. What do you do to intentionally stay in touch with your assistants so that you know where they are?
Well, one thing that's good is I purposely designed it for having younger guys that were similar to life with me. And not saying that, I didn't want an older coach or someone wise, but I had enough people in my life. Coach K had been here 42 years, and I have the unique opportunity that, he's a phone call away. He comes to my office constantly, and I can pick his brain. He's been doing this forever. But I really wanted to get coaches that I could live life with in this. So one thing that we are very intentional about, we meet in the office and we do that, but like we'll go play 18 holes, and we can do the same thing on the golf course, or the same thing. We have 100 lakes in our county, and we got a lake 2 blocks down the street, and we've got boats and jet skis and all that fun stuff. Like, let's just get on the boat and let's cruise, and let's talk about where our kids are in their faith right now. Let's talk about, where we are as a program and what we need to do next. Like, there's no set rule book on how. Coach K gave me the best advice he could ever give me were 2 things. He said, 1, build a team that you'd want to play on. So that's how you need to recruit, is build a team that you personally would want to play on. And 2, do it exactly how you would want to do it. Don't do it how I did it. Don't do how someone else did it. So for me, what's the one thing you hear from kids and coaches and why they get out of this, whether it's true or not, they use the word fun. Well, it's not fun anymore. The fun is gone.
Yeah.
Right. And I never wanted to get that. I was like, well, why is it not fun? Why can we not, I'm 38 years old. Like, I know I'm not the same I was back when I was in college with these guys, but even how we approach our conditioning and our season stuff, like my team, we're playing sand volleyball, right? We're doing paintball. We're doing fun activities. We're out on the lake. We're doing stuff. We're just, same thing with my assistants, is we're trying to make this whole thing, it's not just a job. It is part of like a family and what we're trying to do. But man, people tell you got to do it a certain way. It's a lie. And that's what we try to do. And it's not perfect. And we make adjustments every year. We take a look and say, hey, what worked, what didn't, what team do we have this year? What do we need to focus on? But my assistants are so good at that. And we value family so much. I'm the only one on my staff that has a child right now, and he's young. Obviously, he's 3.5. But all my assistants are married. One is engaged, is getting married here this next year. And, just them, for the girls to see how they've been around each other And
that's cool.
it's only going to get better. Like now that, Charlie's getting a little older now and he can go with me, like to bring our wives and stuff. We were just at the Final Four and we rented a house, and I made the comment like, gosh, we got to get our wives here. Like we got to do this again next year with all 4 of them, because it is special. And you do want to bring them into what you're doing because it matters.
Coach, I think fun is underrated. Like I think we don't talk about that enough, about it remaining to be fun. Even at your level, when it is, golly, it's serious, and not just with, obviously that situation with your player a couple of years ago, that's on a whole other level, but just within, you wanting to be excellent, your program wanting to, maybe needing to win, like that is important. But no matter what level it is, like going back to the why of why we all started playing was that it was fun taking that ball and trying to throw it in that hoop. That's we keep kind of go back to the art of coaching again. I think that's the challenge. How can we help them to get better at a good rate while keeping it fun? That's where creativity, maybe us as coaches getting uncomfortable with the drills, the skill work, the ideas that were like, one of my favorite things, I want to work on one ball handling. We're going to get dodgeballs out, and you just have to pound that ball while you play dodgeball. Coach, I'm achieving what I want, is them working on their handle with focusing on something else, but they're playing dodgeball and seeing them smile. Like you said, weathering the year, like it is a grind. I don't care what level you're at or what level of sun you have. It's a grind to get through that year, and for not intentionally stealing the fun away, but finding ways to inject even more of it.
Yep. And there's no perfect plan. There's no. Every year's been a little different. Again, I think that goes back to what you're talking about with TJ is you got to feel right. And winning is fun, but also there's some teams who win that it's not fun. Like, let's put that, winning doesn't just equal fun. Now that's what we're trying to do. But man, if we're winning a bunch and we're miserable, get me out of this. Like, I just go rather make a lot more money in sales, right? And I could have fun when my check account gets bigger. But yeah, it is. And that's where you have that's why the staff is important, because when you have guys that can kind of say like, hey, I think that here's where we're at today. Like, what do you guys think? And be like, you know what? You're probably right. Like, we just came off of a huge emotional win. We got a game on Saturday. It's Thursday. We're in game 24 of the season. Like, what could I possibly do in this hour 45 minutes that's going to get our guys better? Well, it's probably mental. So what can I do for them mentally? Oh, yeah, let's grab the wiffle ball bat. Let's put the bases out. Hey, practice today is we're going to watch 15 minutes of some things we cut up from the last game, and then boom, let's pick teams. And again, it's not always like that. It's not always an exact science, but
fun doesn't mean undisciplined either.
Correct.
Like that, I think sometimes people lump those two things together. Well, if you want to have a fun program, that means that you're really not getting better. You're not accomplishing anything. You're probably not going to win, and it's very undisciplined. I push back on that.
Yep, I would too.
Coaches, we are all searching for ways to better evaluate players in order to give meaningful feedback. Over 15 years ago, I put together a test called the Jamodi Skill Rating. The JSR takes players through a series of tests involving basketball skill or athleticism, giving them one rating at the end. Their JSR rating will give you clarity on what needs to be discussed with players and parents on areas they need to focus on improving. I test our players at least 4 times each year. They're able to compete against each other, past players' scores, and most importantly, their past performances. If you'd like to start testing your athletes, email me at jamodipodcast@gmail.com for more information.
Well, 2 things, and I'll hit this quickly. You talked about culture and what are some of your favorite culture building things. One of my favorite things that we came up with is we have what's called a toughness week. And every year at the beginning, after Labor Day, we start essentially, it's kind of like our conditioning, but it's 10 straight days. And what's unique is me and the assistants, we do something in the off season and we draft teams. So we pick our guys, snake draft or whatever. And then after that, we have essentially it's about 17 or 18 different things that are competitions. And a lot of them are they're pretty much conditioning competitions, but also there's some, we're in an escape room, right? You got to get out in an hour. The escape rooms they do. We'll do paintball. We'll do something on the water. We'll throw in like we do an Ironman. Like there's an actual iron. Now it's shortened, but they're in the pool. They're running and they're biking. They're tag team racing. So like that's become so cool because what it's done is they look forward to that. And I sit in here and I laugh and my coaching staff laughs. And I hope none of my players actually watch this, but it's like us manipulating them getting into shape. And it's like, hey, you think you're having fun, but I actually just got you in basketball shape. So 2 wins, right? So
next year you got a mutiny because one dude listened to this. He's like, Coach, no, I'm not doing it.
No, I'm not doing this. We're just playing paintball only. So that's my favorite team culture thing that we've done. And then, it kind of builds into our retreat at the very end of that. So that's been really cool. But the other question I wanted to, before the speed round, is just talk about, you talked about the balance and the family piece of it. I'm telling you right now, I don't care if you're at the highest level possible. It is a lie that you cannot be a great dad, husband, and a great coach. It's a lie. Whoever started saying that in the time, I heard somebody, and I wish I wrote it down because I say it a lot and I wish I could give them credit for it because it's not my words. But they said, look, you can win every game you play, but if you lose at home, then you've lost.
Yeah.
End of story. So I will never, ever, ever, you can't pay me enough money to lose at home. And my assistants know it and we know it. But I think there's ways to do that, to involve them in things like my family's a basketball family and my son's 3.5 and he's almost to the age. Well, now he can go on the bus rides with us.
Yeah. Right? You nailed it. Yeah. Yeah.
So, but it is a lie, man. I feel sorry for those people that do believe that and that buy into that. I understand there's a lot of pressure, especially at the highest level, and there's a lot of time that requires, but you don't have to, trust me, you don't have to be in at 6 a.m. and stay till 9 p.m. every single day. If you're doing that and your coaching staff is doing that, or your head coach, go find someone else. Like you got to go find somebody else to play for or coach for, because it's a lie, man. You can be successful. There's a lot of people in my league. There's a lot of people at the highest level that are super successful. Dabo Sweeney's very successful, right? You look at Virginia's staff. Tony Bennett is extremely successful. Liberty with Richie McKay, like it's a load of crap that, again, I could go on and on about, but you win every game, lose at home, you lost.
You nailed it. It's a choice. I mean, it's a choice. Like legacy is something that I think when you're a younger coach, you really think about a lot. And then as you get older, you seem to, in my opinion, you seem to care less and less about it. Or you care about a different type of legacy. My high school coach at the Colony, Tommy Thomas, is very well known in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, but he retired in 2005. And within a couple of years, new crop of coaches came up. The name doesn't float around that much anymore. He has his name on his gym, which is cool, but his legacy was the relationships he built with players. The fact that like we still talk every month, that if I still have something difficult to this day, I know I can call him. If I just want to feel a little bit better, maybe about where I am as a coach, I call Coach Thomas. Like that kind of legacy. And you'll like this. A guy named David Peeler, he's the head coach at Highland Park in Dallas-Fort Worth, had one of these hoop talks. And I don't know, this may be something you end up doing. But when he drives into his garage, and he's, you park, you have that door right in front of you that you go in. Up above, there's a sign and it says, "Don't fail at the job that only you can do." Like, I like to think that, no one can do grace like you. Nobody can do faith like me, but that's just not the truth. But at your house, only you can do that. In my house, only I can. And there are people that choose to fail at that in an attempt to find success. And maybe they do find that success in another area, but man, like Coach Thomas felt, when you're 5-10 years out of it, what legacy is really most important?
The fact is, I can be replaced tomorrow, and Grace basketball will still continue and will be very good. Jordan Widener could take over for me now. He almost already does, honestly. I don't even know what I do at this point. But no one can be Charlie's dad. Like, that's me. And you are correct. That's the one job that I cannot be replaced. Dad can't be replaced, right? My wife, again, she can get a new husband, like you can remit, but like you can't replace me at home. You can replace me here. And I think I am 100% on board. I understand that and I know it. And hopefully, again, I'm not perfect at it, but hopefully they feel that way and I live that out.
Coach, the speed round. These are quick questions. First thing that pops in your head, just blurt it out.
This is dangerous, right?
Favorite ice cream flavor?
I like Rocky Road.
Greatest shooter of all time?
Jordan Widener. It's only because he's in the office right now. Greatest shooter of all time, Steph Curry.
Yeah, let's not play around with it.
Not messing around.
Yeah. Best gym you've ever coached in?
It's mine, man. I'm telling you, it's the one thing I can sell is we have the best small college gym in the country. The MOCC, especially this last year, with sold out almost probably 15 of our 19 home games.
Wow.
It is incredible. Lancer Gym.
Best basketball movie of all time?
This is bad because you think I should say Hoosiers.
How do you not? Where you are? How do you? You're gonna have picket. You're gonna have people picketing us.
I'm gonna say Hoosiers because I don't need people.
Okay,
me.
Let's just do that. I'll kind of say besides Hoosiers, what's the best basketball movie?
So I got two. I'm a big White Men Can't Jump fan. Love White Men Can't Jump. Going to Sizzler. I could do movie quotes all day, and I'm a Blue Chips fan. But the funny thing is, I just talked about Blue Chips. I said, the odd thing is, we're dealing with Blue Chips is coming true right now before our eyes, right, with the highest bidder. So This whole thing of going and paying Neon Bordeaux money to come to Western is a real thing now. So Those are my two. I like White Men Can't Jump, and I like Blue Chips.
That's good. Texting or talking?
Oh, talking always.
Okay, in Texas, no shot clock, so I'll let you know that ahead of time. For high school, shot clock or no shot clock?
Yeah, it's time. I believe that you don't need a fast one, like even 35. I don't think you need 35, but like there needs to be a minimum where, again, the game just to get away. And I'm from Indiana, right? And I'm probably gonna get hate messages after this, but just to be able to just park the ball and not do anything, like that's not basketball. So yes.
What are your thoughts on like it being the world's game now and the fact that majority of the world plays 24 seconds at every level?
Yeah, I think you can play around with that. I think we're in danger. I think the NCAA and the NAI and just the basketball in the United States, we're the only basketball that plays 2 20-minute halves. And like, you're seeing the skill level overseas, and just take a look at the draft, right? Look at the draft board and you're seeing there's more international guys than ever. The game is catching up. I think United States, like I think we're in danger of slipping a little bit. I think we need to keep developing our game. And I think part of that is some of the rules to play with. We need to go to quarters like the women's game has. Just the officiating needs to be probably a certain way, just because again we're evolving, right? And I'm a traditional guy, and there are some things that I've even had to look in the mirror and go, you know what, this is probably the best thing for the game. We need to continue to evolve because again, you take a look around and man, we're slipping a little bit here.
Yeah. Favorite holiday?
I like just from Thanksgiving to Christmas. I like that stretch. My favorite actual holiday is July 4th. We're lakes everywhere here, man. So seeing the fireworks on the boat, on the water, and it just doesn't get any better.
Coach, I'll tell you, I think that's the coach's holiday. Majority obviously love the family time because they're not playing. We're not playing. Yeah. It's so far away from the season to where you're not even. I mean, obviously you're recruiting and things like that, but it's A lot of coaches say July 4th. So I think you're onto something. You're up 3 on defense with 5 seconds left. Do you foul or no foul?
I'm not saying because I don't want people to know.
Or can it be situational? Or do you actually you have
situational.
So you have one that you're strong about. You're not going to share, which is okay if you don't share, but you have one.
Those are certain things into the game stuff. I think the biggest thing to know is there's no right or wrong way.
Yeah.
But there is something where you want every single person that wears a uniform for you, including your assistants, you want everybody to know exactly what they're doing. And if you can do that, that's where you're going to win more games than you're going to lose.
Fair. Great answer. Dodged it. What book would you give someone?
I love, especially for the age group that we're in, the 18 to 22, and especially the young men. I'm speaking young men. If I'm not given the Bible, Wild at Heart is terrific.
Yeah.
Wild at Heart by John Eldredge. I just think the age group 18 to 22 it's such a huge developmental. And I think anyone, if you're a boy, age 12, 13, all the way up to 40, 45 years old, capturing a man's heart and a man of God and what that looks like, right? Masculinity.
Especially today.
Being a man, it is so good, and it kind of touches on. So that's the book I always push to people when they ask about what's your favorite.
What are your thoughts about that book as like almost a book study throughout a season with the team? That could be kind of cool.
Good. We've done it before, and you asked me on this question, what's something that's the best thing you borrowed lately? This is something I'm gonna borrow, and I want to talk about him because the D3 National Coach of the Year, the national champion, was here in Indiana, Trine University. Brooks Miller told me this. We do a book report coming into the summer with all of our guys, but one thing that they do that I'm going to steal is they figure out what book they want, and then each player or a group of players is designated a chapter to focus on, and then those kids will then teach the team about the chapter they read. And I thought about that. I was like, you know what? The truth is, guys say they read all the book and all of it, but as well as I do, it happens, especially in July, and especially in July in Indiana when they be on the boat or the golf course. So I'm going to steal that. I think I like that idea of what's one thing we're going to try this off season or going into next year is let's find a book that fits the team that we have. Let's divvy it up and let's really focus on diving deep. We did a book study, Lead for God's Sake. Todd Gongwer is kind of a local guy about 35 minutes north of us. And so he came in and spoke to the team, and it's really good about just, priorities and where Christ is in all the competing and winning and losing. But yeah, that's one thing I'm going to steal from Coach Miller is that.
That's good. Couple more. Favorite place to travel?
I love Phoenix. My coaches love Phoenix. I'm not a big beach guy. I live in Indiana, so we have lakes. I'm a lake guy. I didn't grow up around the ocean and beach, and so I don't need to be on the coast, but I love Phoenix. I do love San Diego. One of my favorite places to be is South Carolina. I love Charleston. I love Hilton Head. But in honesty, from May to September, there's no better place than where we're at. Northern Indiana, Michigan, Traverse City, all the way up there. Like, it's just such a cool time that people always make fun of me. Like, hey, why don't you go on vacations, during summer? I'm like, why? Like, this is my vacation. I literally, it's perfect here. And so I'd rather go somewhere in February than I would in June and July.
Yeah. Last one, probably the most important in basketball. Who is the GOAT?
Who is the GOAT? Well, my assistant's shaking his head because he's a LeBron fan. I think it depends on your age, right? Like,
no doubt.
My age.
You and I are about the same age.
35 to 40 and older. Number 23 for the Bulls is the.
Have your assistant watch The Last Dance, and then get back to us. No, LeBron's great. Like, I get it. But it is a lot to do with your age and when you're watching the game.
For sure. Has anyone said like Wilt Chamberlain or anything like that?
Some of the older guys have brought, Kareem has come up a few times just because of the dominance. And I think Brian Katz said Bill Russell, he said, because it's about winning. It's like, that's pretty good.
What you value, right? Like, again, if you ask me my favorite movies, if you watch the story of Earl, the GOAT, Manigault. Like, there's some names. You start getting into the Rucker Park, and you start getting into some of those guys that unfortunately didn't make it. There's some hoopers that never made it for whatever reason. Good choices, bad choices, and above. But yeah, I'll go with MJ.
Nice. Coach, this was so much fun. Really enjoyed getting to learn more about you, getting to know you. Just love what you're doing with your program for your players and what you represent. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, it's a blast. It's so much fun, and I've got to watch some of yours doing this. And one thing I'll end with is there's so many good people in our profession, and there's so many neat, getting to connect with coaches, and at every level, high school, junior college. One of my favorite conversations I had at the Final Four was junior college, the coach of the year, and I had more interest, honestly, talking to him than some of the Power 5 guys it was neat to hear their story. And hey, you got 2-year guys, not 4-year guys. And what does that look like? And but there's just so many people out there that are so good at what they do. And I just have a admiration for those that, do it the right way and have some principles behind, a foundation behind of why they do it. So it is a blessing to be in a small fraternity.
If anybody wants to connect with you, follow up, maybe learn more about your program, we didn't really get into style play or anything like that. What's a good way for them to connect with you or maybe follow you?
Well, now all you got to do is get on Grace Basketball social media anywhere, and this year it's blown up. Really, it's pretty buzzy around here. All the social media platforms we have a great video guy. I'm not kidding, Matt. I have a student that works for us, and he is the best social media video guy in the country at any level. Talk
about value.
I can't pay him enough. Man, if you go on, when we're done, you just go on our Twitter account or any of our other accounts, and you just watch some of those 1-minute clips. He turns these around in 24 hours. And so he travels with us.
Wow.
He takes his camera. I pay for a hotel when we have to stay. Like, he's so valuable for recruiting. And again, it's not my thing, but like, that's one of the things, like, evolve or die, right? And people love it. And that's one thing, if you want to know about Grace Basketball, especially the cool thing is the platform with what winning brings. And with this Elijah thing, Elijah was just named the Small College Basketball Bevo Francis Award winner. Like, how cool is that? It's the best basketball player in the country, JUCO, NAI, D3, D2. And now he's going to end up at, maybe a Power 5, maybe not, and have another career and go hopefully play professionally. But man, to be able to say, I coach that guy. Like, he's the best thing that Grace and my kids, like every one of these kids, are such a great ambassador for our program and our school. That's what's pretty special about it.
That's awesome, Coach. Man, thank you so much. This was great.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you.
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the Jamodi Podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.